Hello, NPBF coaches and fans alike. This is Alex back again with another playoff coaches interview. Uh, Joining me today, coming from behind, but not super behind, I have Jason, coach of the Niflheim Ninetailers, with me. Say hi, Jason.
Hey, how's everyone going?
So, as I just kind of alluded to, you have had a bit of a interesting season, wouldn't you say?
Oh, most definitely. Compared to last season, I think I'm doing a bit better this time.
You know what? You probably are. You probably are.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
your season is so interesting because you went from being towards D League elimination consideration to now you're solidified into playoffs.
I changed my play style a lot too. Last season, you would have noticed I was very bulky, but I had no offensive presence. So when I talked to the Rilla Boomers, he suggested I try an entirely new strategy this season, and I've had a lot of success so far.
I mean, clearly. I mean, we'll get into that actually. We'll get more.
Yeah.
We'll delve more into that.
Yeah.
But first, what I would like to know, you've consulted. You've mentioned the real boomers, Jamie. Uh, Jamie is somebody that has brought a lot of people to us. So I guess, what's your background with the competitive scene been kind of like? Like, what brought you to this point?
Previously I'd only done Showdown OU, so and Monotype, so those are my only competitive experiences. I started in local tournaments in Gen 3 for Ruby and Sapphire.
Oh wow.
I did Diamond and Pearl VGC when that came out a long time ago. In Gen 5 and Gen 6 I did mostly OU laddering.
Mm-hmm.
And when Jamie contacted me in Gen 7, Gen 8, he kept on saying, join draft leagues. I went, no, I haven't had any good experiences with that. So I took up on his offer for Gen 8, and it's been great, actually.
Yeah, and that actually leads into a great question. Although before I get there, I gotta say the fact that you've been doing this
Yeah.
since Gen 3 is crazy. Like, you don't hear that too
Yeah,
often.
that's because I think I'm older, so it works out that way.
I mean, you're probably not the oldest one in the playoffs.
No.
No.
No, I think there's an older one there, isn't there?
Yeah. 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 Deshaun's a bit older than you, I think.
Yeah, yeah, he is by a few years, I think.
Yeah. But you talk about Gen 8 being your first time, having this draft experience. So, what did you think of going back and doing Gen 6 instead this season?
Well, actually, it worked out because Gen 6 was my very first draft experience, but it was with a casual league, so it quit halfway through, so I'd never really got to know the meta much.
Oh,
And because
wow.
the OU meta is so different from draft, there's a lot of things that, for the lower tiers, that are really good that would never get play in OU, so it's been a good learning experience for me.
As a learning experience, did you find it tough to adapt, considering how much Gen 8 stuff you've done and 7 and whatever
Yeah,
from
most definitely.
like I guess in that regard, since you found it a bit difficult to adapt, would you say there was a specific moment where things started clicking or falling into place? Like, it could be you were just building a team or playing a particular game or something you were doing that was
Oh,
totally
yeah, no worries.
separate. Well, let's hear about it. I'd love to hear about it.
Oh, no worries. So this season especially, I tried to improve my team building a lot. Previously, I'd gone through Jamie or Sean
Mhm.
Sione about building for a matchup, but I'd always come short on the testing, and then the battle wouldn't go so well because I'd be too worried about overthinking those plays. But this season, I scrapped that completely. I went in by myself with my own builds, tested a lot of niche builds like the Nitter King sets and the Raichu sets,
Mhm.
especially, just trying lots of different things.
Right on.
And I didn't want to overthink stuff too much this season. Last season and the first season, I overthought stuff way too much, tested, and it wasn't fun. I found I was getting burnt out too much. So this season, I just wanted to start clean and just go nice and simple. And that's been working out so well.
I definitely can't argue with the results. I mean, it's working for you. Certainly better than last season and the season before did. It's
Yeah,
been a
most
great
definitely.
turnaround. Uh, I think I think if you ever get to a point where what you're doing isn't fun, then you just need to take a step back and reevaluating it. So it's really great to hear that that's been your experience with this season.
Yeah, that's really helped a lot because I was getting burnt out last season too. I was getting so worked up about losing to a player, and you feel like you're not good enough or you shouldn't be in A League anymore. But I'm glad I took a step back because that's really helped my game, I think.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely has. So, you've talked about how you shifted your play style and what you wanted to do between the seasons. Um,
Yep.
why don't you tell me about that? I'm curious. Like you've alluded to the bulk and trying to go more offense, but I'm curious what the mindset was and how you kind of approached the season.
The mindset was very different. So in previous games, a season. Sorry, I had a lot of really bulky stuff like Guja and
Mm-hmm.
Slowbro and Blissey and all that, but there was no real offensive presence that would get worn down quickly by hazards and get overcome. So this time, I wanted to try a Pokemon I'd never used before, like Nidoking. I'd never used it in any format before or tier, and Crawdon as well. So I
Hmm.
wanted to have more of a balanced approach and try Pokemon I never used. So then I don't have anything I can overthink. It's completely fresh, and I can go in with that.
Well, I mean, I don't have that much use personally of Crawdaunt, but I can definitely agree that if you're gonna try to pick something to experiment with that you've never used before offensively, Nidoking is probably one of the better ones to use just because it can do so many different things and can fill whatever niche you need it to do.
Most definitely. I didn't realize how much coverage it had as well.
Yeah, Nidoking and Nidoqueen are they are definitely products of how silly Gen 1 was when it came to move sets.
Yeah.
Uh, so one thing I'm curious about when it comes to your game plan and whatnot is,
Yep.
we saw a shift from the first half of the season into the latter half in terms of like a lot of stuff started clicking more. You started picking up a lot more wins. Uh, was that like a result of you just having to get used to everything? Did you internally like change the game plan with the things that you had drafted?
A bit of both, actually. So in the first couple of, I think it was the first three games
Mm-hmm.
for this season, I had speed tiered wrong. So I had guessed my numbers wrong and didn't double check. I think in one of the games, my Megalopunny was slower than Sank it should have been. And
Right.
that made me realize I had my numbers all wrong. So, especially with speed creeping, I wanted to double check that for games four and onwards. That was something I really improved on,
Mm-hmm.
especially. And I think in one of the other games, I didn't give Ferrothorn hazards sometimes, which is a big no-no.
Yeah, if you're not having Ferrothorn set up hazards, I mean, it sits there and it doesn't die, but it's just gonna be
Yeah,
passive, and that it completely eradicates like what you had gone into the season doing because it just sits there and doesn't do anything.
yeah, that's right. So what I did in the games that followed afterwards, I double checked my imports.
That is definitely something to do. Although I know of people in the past who have not double checked, maybe not even put items on everything because they forgot to write them down, and
Yeah.
they've still been able to pull games out. I don't suggest doing that though.
Oh no, I'll never do that again.
No,
So what I
no.
used to do when yeah, when writing imports, I would just write a whole bunch of moves. And
Hmm.
obviously I just copy and paste the first four moves without thinking.
Oh, jeez.
So I won't do that again. Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's embarrassing to admit, but yeah, that's pretty much what happened in the first couple of games.
I mean, I've definitely had games here, maybe not this season, but in previous seasons where I forgot to change an item or I forgot to put a fourth move on something.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. I've done that once.
So you mentioned earlier though about like you're using a bunch of stuff, or not a bunch, but you are using things that you're not completely familiar with. So
That's right,
I'm
yeah.
particularly interested to hear your insight on some of these next questions I have that are more specifically about the team you picked out. Uh,
Yep.
the first one for me the one I'm most curious about is there any member on your team, or really which member I guess, kind of surprised you with how well it performed. It doesn't have to be like Mega Lopunny being at the top of the kill
Oh,
leaders.
no worries. Yeah.
Basically, it could just be like, oh, this just did better than I thought it was gonna do.
For me, I think it would have been Entei and Raichu. So Entei is something I hadn't used much in previous gens, but I had
Mm-hmm.
used it in Gen 7, Gen 8. I didn't think it would be as good in Gen 6 because it's nature locked, because of
Right.
that shiny Gen 4 event. So I'm thinking, is it really worth the fire slot? Originally, I wanted to get Heat Ran, but that had gone, so I had to think of a good mid-tier fire type, and actually it done better than I thought.
Yeah, Entei is really, really good, especially in 6th gen. Those Sacred Fire burns are pretty dreadful, with the 12%
Yes.
instead of the
Yeah.
6%, and being locked into Adamant's pretty good.
Oh yes, it's come in handy for those damage calcs too, I think.
Oh, I
Sometimes I wish it could have that base 100 speed with Jolly, but you got to make do.
yeah, and I mean Adamant Sacred Fires, Adamant E speeds. That's nothing to laugh at.
No, it's pretty good actually. Raichu surprised me too because I think in Gen 6 it had that speed increase that previous
Yes,
generations didn't have.
yes, it did.
That was huge. So on paper, when I was looking at electric types, Raichu looked really good with that Gen 6 boost. It gets decent coverage, and it can do a bit of everything. It can do physical sets, special sets, mixed, um, T-Wave, whatever you need to do. So it seemed good.
Oh yeah, watching your games with Raichu this season have definitely more sold me on the viability than I previously looked at it outside of like playing through a story.
I never thought it got knockoff too. That's what surprised me when I looked at Cerebi.
Oh yeah, yeah. Seeing you bust out knockoff on Raichu, I was like, Raichu's this good?
I know, it's insane.
And like the fake out and just like you use Raichu really well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a good Pokemon. I think it doesn't feel too overrated like Thundy T and all the other electric types, but it's pretty good, I reckon.
No, especially at like a bottom tier pick, Raichu is it's pretty good value.
Definitely a good budget pick.
Oh yeah, I would say if I could go back, I probably would have taken your Raichu over my Electivire.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I reckon. Yeah, Electrovire is a bit too slow for what he does.
Yeah, like Motor Drive's great, but it's only good if you're facing people that have electric types, which is not everybody.
Yeah, it's like base 80 speed as well, which isn't too good.
No, it's just that it's just got good move. It's just got decent coverage, and both of its attacking stats are very usable.
Yeah.
Uh, on the flip side of that, though, who do you feel like underperformed compared to what your expectations of it were?
Um, on paper, I would have to probably say Latios and Togekiss. So I know both of those mons bring a lot of psychological pressure to their
Mm-hmm.
games. Togekiss especially, but I've found that just having it out will change the opponent's game plan a lot. So sometimes I've taken advantage with that. I think there was a game where I'd flinch spammed everything with a scarf because I hadn't run any scarf Togekiss in that entire season yet. But when I was running the defensive set as I usually do,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't really achieving much. It was just there and just taking up space. Usually I'd wished I'd taken something else instead for that reason.
It's really interesting to hear you say that about Togekiss, because like you've said, when you've gone more offensive, Togekiss has it's been successful for you. Um,
It's been very good, but when I go defensive, like the Wish set or um the defensive T-Wave Air Slash, it doesn't sometimes do much on paper because the opponent's really prepared. It gets worn down with rocks,
yeah,
especially if it's one of my defoggers, and then it hasn't really achieved anything.
yeah. I guess I mean I did get to use Togekiss when I was playing Gen 6, uh, as when that was the most recent, but I guess for me, I never thought to use Togekiss to pass Wish. I was more concerned with defogging and being Heal Bell.
Yeah, Heal Bell's been really useful, I think, as a cleric. It can actually achieve a lot.
Oh, for sure.
Ladios, I think, has the same problems. It brings a lot of stuff on paper, but then your opponent's got a lot of pursuit users, so you have to use your
Yeah.
turn very wisely with Latios, otherwise it's dead next turn.
Yeah, when I drafted it, I think the season you started with us, the season we brought you up from
Yeah,
D League, and I got to agree, it was underwhelming.
most definitely. Like I've had to ride Cold Bearberry on it just to stop Weaviles and stuff, or Yaichi just to take one nice little crash before it gets pursuited, but it doesn't really do much on paper. Like, and if you scarf it, they're going to bring in the special wall, so you've really got to trick very carefully, or just run specs and just go nukes.
Yeah, yeah, like I feel like at that point the only like the best sets that you can run would be like Calm Mind or like you can't even run Dragon Dance. I mean you could, but like that's better suited for the Mega.
Yeah, definitely. I think if we did have Megaladios in Gen 7 or something, I would run a lot more physical sets and a lot more variety as well.
Yeah, I think I had when I had it, I had every intention of using Dragon Dance, and then anytime I went to do it, I was like, this just isn't feasible.
No. I think in one generation I had like the mixed Earthquake set that was in OU and Gen 7. That was really good for just getting rid of heat trans and that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, I bet.
But in draft, that doesn't really come up so often, so you don't
No.
really need to.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I think that's an interesting thing about Latios in draft. Like, it's a threat for sure, but you're kind of limited on what it does.
Yeah, and your opponent knows that well too.
Yeah. Um. Last question about your team. For now, I
Yep.
guess it would be is there anything that you think did about just bog standard? Like, I picked this. This is what I thought it was gonna do. This is what it did. Nothing special. It didn't exceed and it didn't disappoint me.
I'll probably have to say Ditto. I think I've ran Ditto every single season I've been in NPBF, and it's actually done its job very well.
I would
Like a
agree.
stop setup, I know I do run it literally every single time, but I like the safety of it. I like it just being there, even if I don't take it for a week. It just sits there. It stops people bringing Charizard X or pretty much every Dragon Dancer,
Oh
and it
yeah.
gives you an out to almost anything.
Oh
It's a
for
bit
sure.
brainless. So I don't like using it.
I don't think it's brainless actually because I think you have to be smart with how you're using it. You got to know when exactly to bring it
Yeah,
in. You have to know when is not the time to use it. You have to make sure that it's the right match. I don't think Ditto is brainless at all. I think you have to make Ditto work for you. If it's brainless for you, that just means that you know how to use it.
yeah, it's really good. I think my favorite aspect, and I think I did that my first season, was if you lead with it, you can get an insight to how your opponent is playing in the sets they're using too. So it's very good defensively in that regard as well.
I'd never thought of that, but you're right. You're right. I've seen people do crazy things defensively with it, but I've never thought of it as a way to get inside your opponent's head. But that's genius.
That's what I like Ditto for mostly, because you can kill it Prince Scarf or set up on with it, but defensively, especially if you don't have rocks, you can actually take your opponent's rocks, for example, or their T spikes, and really play around with it.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. I need to use Ditto more. Sheesh, you're selling me on it.
It's so good for a lot of different matchups too, and it's very. But yeah, you can get subbed out really quickly. That's the reason why I don't take it too much, because if they expect it, they're just going to sub or choice lock you out of something else, and then you lose a lot of momentum. But if you use it right, you can put a lot of pressure on too.
Oh, for sure. And that's where it comes in to play of like you have to know when to use Ditto. Like
Yes, definitely.
you have to make it work for you. You can't just bring it and expect it to auto win.
Yeah, it's not an auto win, but it's a very, very good tool if you use it.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I think a lot of people have their picks like that, like you do, where they're just like, you don't have to bring it every week, but you like having it, and you're comfortable knowing that it's there, and that people got to prepare for it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's a good safety net, I reckon.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I was looking at our possible matchup that you and I might have to do, and I was like, oh no. Oh no, how do I deal with Ditto? Like everything else, whatever. How do I deal with Ditto?
I think yeah, a lot of people, um, not that overthink, but they prepare so much for Ditto that something else can be really useful too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
Something I found useful.
no, I think yeah, that's very useful. I think having something like that, even if it just sits on the bench half the time for half of the season, just having it there is just you're into your opponent's head before the game even starts.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I talked to one of my previous week matchups, and they go, "Why didn't you use Ditto after the game?" And yeah, that was the reason why. It can sit there; they'll be occupied about it. I can bring something else, and they can sometimes waste resources for something that may never come onto the field at all. It's good.
It's real good. Wow. All right, so let's look
Yep.
forward a bit. Let's take an eye to the future. Let's look towards playoffs that are coming up. At the time of recording, we still don't know who all the playoff slots are yet.
No, no.
No,
So we're in a bit of a dark a bit.
no. We know who six of the teams are. We still have
Yep.
four teams vying for two spots. Um,
Yep.
actually, more than four teams. Previous people I've been speaking with in the previous videos, there have been two people I've actually been not accounting for because it didn't occur to me. Oh wait, in the right circumstance, this guy could make playoffs. So right
And that's
now,
huge.
yeah, it is. It is. It's super crazy that like I think 10, no, not 10, 12 coaches are like still possibly like potentially like have games with playoff implications and possibilities in the final week.
And they're so neck to neck too. You don't know who's going to get in there.
Oh no. But let's just say all 12 have, well, I think it's 11 now. Before
Yep.
this afternoon it was 12, but now it's not. But what I will say about that, since we don't know who is in it, if you had to pick, and I'll name off everybody so that everyone gets their fair shout. Who, if you had to pick somebody, like let's say you take the Ninetailers all the way to the finals. I want to know who would be your dream finals opponent. Your options are myself, Deshaun,
Yep.
Steven, Liam, Rennie. That's it for everyone that's guaranteed. Now, for people that still have a shot, we have Anthony, Shawnee,
Mhm.
Jeff, Eric. Surprisingly, someone who, much like you, was close to being on the D League cutting board, and Chris
Mm.
in the right circumstance. So out of
If I
everyone
had to
there,
choose,
yes, if you had to
yeah,
choose,
that's tricky. If I had to choose, I'm sort of torn between two people,
you could
which is kind of hard.
let's just say them both. Say them both. I would love to hear
Okay,
both.
no worries. But if I had to choose my two hardest battles mentally, I think have been through Deshaun and Liam. They're both exceptional players, and they bring so much pressure every time.
Yeah, especially with the new team Liam has. I mean, the team he had before was great. I saw no flaws with it, and now he's made all these changes, getting Superior and Sableye and Chansey, and it's just like, oh no,
That's such a hard team to break on paper as well.
it really, really is. It's interesting that you pick the people that have been the hardest mentally for you as like the people you would love to see in the finals. Like, should you make it that far, most people would be like, oh, this is like somebody I like, or this is like, this looks like a fun game, but man, Jason and the Ninetailers just want a challenge. They want to earn the title.
And that's not that. I think if I can have one of the best battles I can have, I think they spur me to improve as well. Because building for those two is so hard. I do so much testing and um, also trying a lot of new tricks. And if it doesn't work on paper, I'm thinking, is it worth bringing it for them? Because you feel like what you've done previously, you have to do one better. And if you can't bring your best mentally, it can be hard to prepare for that. So that so good. Psychologically, they play so well, those two. It's so hard to predict and call what they're going to do.
I definitely agree. You're certainly right about both of them. Uh, that answer probably makes my next question a moot point, but I'm gonna do it anyway because everyone else has gotten this question so far. Uh,
Yeah.
is there any matchup in particular that you might be dreading having to do in the playoffs? Like it could just be a bad matchup on paper against the opposing team. It could be a, that it's a coach that you just have a history of never being able to beat. You might not like their play style.
Oh, hmm. I've got the teams in front of me. Actually, sure. Like, there's like literally every single person there has earned their spot, and they're really good.
Right? Yes, definitely.
I'm not actually sure. Like, I think psychologically, you and Jesse are the people I always dread facing the most every single season because
Oh
you
wow.
guys have so much draft experience.
Well,
Because I've
I'm
heard all these
flattered.
stories. Yeah, I'm thinking, I've only been doing draft not long. Thinking I don't have that experience, so how can I not impress them, but give them a good battle worth doing?
Well, I can tell you for a fact that you've impressed me. I mean, the first time you and I played, you pretty. I don't remember how thoroughly you beat me, but you certainly handed me that L.
I know it was close, and I think Jesse was similar too. He is so good.
Jesse is impossible to predict.
I know everything on paper and what he brings are two different things. So you have to change your game plan from turn one, pretty much.
Yeah, I had to face him twice this season, and that was my experience both times. It was it was pretty annoying, but I mean that makes the game more interesting.
Most definitely, yeah.
So, we've talked about you, we've talked about your history, we've talked about the team, we've talked about the season, we've talked about playoffs, which are going to be happening somewhat soon, depending on when week 12 ends.
Yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts on the season or the team, your division, your coaches, your fellow coaches, anything that's been going on for these last 11 to 12 weeks before we move forward going into the playoffs?
As in like experiences or whatnot.
Any kind of thoughts that you feel like you'd like to talk about or share?
Um, I would probably have to say my favourite battles this season have been with Chris, with the Nottingham Nil Ghost.
Mm-hmm.
He is a really good player. And he's someone I've heard of before I entered draft, so I never thought I could actually run head to head with him. And the first game was so close, I'd lost 1-0 to that Mega Alakazam because I didn't take quick tackle or punny. But in the second game, I just managed to beat him with some with that sucker punch. Yeah, I honestly never thought I could give him a good game like that.
You did more than give him a good game. That Nidoking you brought for that game was incredible. Like that, just thinking to bring Sucker Punch in the first place. Like
He's
amazing
got a
prep.
really good mind game. Yeah, he's got an impressive mind game, Chris, because I'd seen him in a few other drafts.
Yeah, yeah. Especially if you let him get comfortable and
Yeah.
dictate the pace. Yeah, Chris is a guy where you have to go in and you have to set the pace. If you let him like lead the game, then you are not gonna have a good time.
Oh, definitely. And that Porygon 2 of his is so annoying.
Yeah, this has been probably for me the least annoying time for the Porygon 2, but there have been other times where I've just wanted to throw my hands up and be done with it. Oh man. So, that's everything I have to ask for you today. It's been awesome getting to speak with you for this half hour and really getting to
Yep.
know the man behind the team and really Like, I've learned so much about you, honestly, even in just this short time that we've been
Likewise.
speaking. It's been really, really,
Yep.
it's been super insightful, especially seeing like how far you've come in just the year it's been since you've been on the NPBF.
Thanks for having me, by the way. It's been good.
Oh yes, would love to bring you back on sometime. Certainly look forward to doing so in future seasons. Hopefully as soon as next season.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to that.
Well, with that said, everyone, I don't know how you can't not root for or not root, just can't root for Jason going into this. I mean, the guy wants his finals opponent to be the person that pushes him the most mentally. He, we have the protagonist here.
You got Yusuke Urameshi on screen.
Yeah, we have our protagonist. Like, this is the guy that just wants to improve, and that's what he wants out of his playoff games. I mean, I've said this about
Uh,
all the other interviews, but I mean, I think everyone really is bringing such unique perspectives and viewpoints and opinions and what they want out of the playoffs that I think it makes it hard to not to like root against anybody.
That's right. And there can only be one winner, sadly.
Yeah, there can only be one winner, but everyone can find their own little moral victories.
Oh, most definitely. Definitely.
Well, Jason, I wish you the best of luck going into playoffs. I wish you luck going into your Week 12 game. Uh, I know,
Thank you so much.
I know. Speaking to your opponent, that it's a game he's excited for as well. So I'm looking forward to watching it. I know he's gonna have fun, and I know you're going to have fun.
Oh, definitely. It'll be good to go against Liam again.
Yes, yes. So good luck, best of luck against the Liam. Best of luck going into the playoffs. And thank you again
Thank
for
you so
coming
much.
on. I hope everyone watching this has enjoyed getting to know Jason as well as much as I have. Um, you know, show your Ninetailers support going forward for these next few weeks. Uh, this is interview number 3 at time of recording. We still have 5 more to do, so please look forward to more playoff content and coverage on the channel. Uh, Pick your teams to support. You actually get to know who the guys are now. Uh, Again, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in and listen. I'll see you next time.